What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts from the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, with Tad the Side. And Tad, officially a draft month now. We had they didn't call it like the Combine or anything, like they called it the Colorado Pro Football Showcase or something like that. That happened today. I don't know exactly why they decided to rebrand it in this different way, but yeah, they had a little bit of a showing for all the Colorado prospects, including your Shedeur Sanders. Travis Hunter was there, but didn't really participate. He ran some routes for Shedeur, but outside of that, he didn't really do any measurables or anything like that. Jimmy Horn, Shiloh Sanders was out there performing as well. So it's like, but yeah, they called it a showcase and not a pro day because the Colorado Pro Day happened earlier in March, if I remember correctly. So
they basically,
I don't know what this was. Yeah,
they basically had like 2 pro days.
Kind of. Yeah, I guess so.
That feels like cheating.
Yeah, I really don't know what it was.
Okay, yeah. So 2 notes on that. 1, how many flags were thrown on Shiloh Sanders during that pro day? Over under 3.
Yeah.
2, that does make a lot of sense because I saw a headline on ESPN's homepage earlier today where it was Colorado's coach, stars should go 1 and 2. I was like, yeah, that is such weird phrasing. Like Colorado, who doesn't know? Like if you're on ESPN, who doesn't know who Colorado's coach is? So thank you for clarifying that. That makes so much more sense now.
Yeah. So that happened today.
Sanders, so, Colin, whatever.
I don't know.
He's going to be in Dallas next year anyway. Who cares?
Yeah. So that's happening today as of recording. And yeah, we still got a lot more pro days happening in the rest of April. But yeah, Tad, we're only a couple weeks away from the actual draft itself. So, I mean, like we talked about in the previous episodes, like this is when you're going to start to hear about, like, this is why Colorado's doing a showcase. So it's like we get to see some of these players. It's like we're going to hear more storylines. It seems like, maybe things are shaping out for the Titans as far as where they're going to go with the first overall pick. Maybe they're still going to trade it, but just like, yeah, as of right now, still all 32 teams have their own first round pick. So that should be a little bit interesting to see every team participate on day 1. But yeah, obviously as we get closer, may get some trades. And obviously once we get to day 1 on April 24th, we may get some moving up and down between teams as well. So that should be very exciting as well. But Tad, over the course of the last, week or so, if you've been following us on our social media handles, you see the ticker coming right down below. Tad has been starting to post all of our position rankings for all the positions that we're going through. We're going to give you the offense first. So we've already done the quarterback, and I believe you've already done running backs as well, if I remember correctly.
Yep, receivers in O-line dropping this weekend.
There you go. So yeah, make sure you're following us on all our social media handles so you can always be up to date with all those rankings that are being posted. We're going to go through the entire offense, and then, of course, right after that, we'll do the entire defense as well. But yeah, with that, Ted, we wanted to sort of break down some of the rankings. We're not going to go into full details as far as what our rankings are. That is where it pays to follow us on social media. That is where you can see
it every
the rankings.
Time is at the beginning. It's like it's 6 cents. It's amazing.
So that is where you can get our full detailed 1 through 10 for each of the positions. So we're not going to do position-based episodes, but we're going to use this episode, Tad, to sort of go into our offensive rankings and sort of saw my rankings. I obviously have seen your rankings. And so it's just like, we're going to discuss as far as like, what did you like? What did you not like? If you didn't like anything, you can share that as well. So it's like we're just sort of discuss some of the rankings. Some of them have been with graphics we've already released before, but some of them are with the upcoming graphics in the coming, couple of days here, as Tad said, dropping some over the weekend and through the next couple of weeks as well for get through all the rankings. But we're really do the offense today. Probably down the road, we'll do a defensive episode as well. But just Tad, looking through my offensive rankings, what were some of the things that sort of stuck out to you? Either good, bad, or somewhere in the middle?
I'll leave it up to you. Do we start with the good or the bad?
I always like to start with good, so let's start with good.
Okay. All right, let's start with the good then.
Well, although a little bit peek behind the curtain, I don't know if either of these were really good.
Well, they're not good. It's like, I was about to say that. It's like, which one's less worse?
Oh,
So the
okay.
less glaring one, where I think I know where you're coming from, but I'll be interested to hear your defense on this one. But
Okay.
it's more understandable.
Okay.
Your number 2 receiver is
Matthew Golden.
your number 3 receiver is
Luther Burden the third.
the hell's wrong with you?
So once again, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here. Tad has been tasked with scouting all of the defense, and I've been tasked with scouting all of the offense. And
I'm
so,
also from Missouri, so I am absolutely biased here.
no, that's fair. That's fair. And I think overall, it's very safe. That's like, I think in your rankings, you have Luther Burden second, and you have Matthew Golden third, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep.
Or is it Mecca? Okay, yeah. So it's like you have them swapped there. So I can very much see the reasoning behind having them swapped there, but just the more of the tape that I saw of Matthew Golden, I think he just has more of the skills that could translate to the NFL, because you look at what he's done. Yeah, you look at, and I'm not saying Luther Burden can't, but just let me go into my reasoning here a little bit as to why I like Matthew Golden at number 2 compared to Luther Burden at number 2. So Golden started his career at Houston. He was actually behind Tank Dell his freshman year. Tank Dell obviously took a majority of that offense, got drafted by the Texans.
I'm going to stop you right here. Do you remember who the quarterback was that year?
I really don't know who was a quarterback at Houston at that time.
Derek King.
Yeah, I never would have guessed. I was like, the only Houston quarterbacks that I can remember is like Case Keenum and Ryan Mallett. So
do you remember Derek King's first school?
No. Was it Miami?
Yes, it was Miami.
It was, okay, yeah, that sounds a little familiar now that you mentioned it, but I was like, I had no idea that he was at Houston. I really had no idea he was a Cougar.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
So Matthew Golden started at Houston for his first 2 years. He then transferred to Texas he was redshirted his junior year because the transfer portal's up, and also he only played the senior year at Texas, but he actually performed, Tad, when the lights were the brightest. So in their SEC championship game, he was able to post a 100-yard game there. And also in the Peach Bowl in the quarterfinals of the CFB playoffs, he posted a 100-yard game there. But all through the rest of the season, no 100-yard games outside those 2 games alone. So you can sort of look at that and be like, okay, how much was this offense really going to him? He was the leading receiver for the Longhorns, but also it's like, Ted, we're both in the same boat that Quinn Ewers was just, not all that great, right? So it's like, I think you attribute that to a part of the offense not, meeting expectations, and, Matthew Golden probably going to have higher numbers than what he did originally had, right? So, but overall, like, he was able to perform when it mattered the most with those 2 important games there. I think the big thing that I see with Matthew Golden, just he presents a very big catch radius. Like, I mean, anywhere that the ball was sort of in the vicinity of him, he was able to come down with the ball. There's lots of times, especially if you look in that Peach Bowl where they needed a crucial play, they went to Matthew Golden. He had that long catch deep down the field, which eventually set them up to take the game-winning score there. So it's like, this is a guy that they relied on in the passing game more often. You can sort of see it where it's like he can sort of contort his body. He can sort of jump and make some great catches behind him too. I saw that on the tape as well. But just overall, this is a guy that's just like, you get it somewhere around him, he could come down with the ball because he has that sort of like ability to, like, he's not the biggest present because he only comes in at 6 foot 195, so he's not a big receiver.
I have him at 5'11.
Yeah, so it's like you can sort of look at the measurements whichever way you want there, but just like regardless, he's still able to sort of get the ball away from opposing defenders. And I think the big thing too is just that he was able to run good routes, so he's able to mix up his tempos to really slow.
Sorry, keep going.
You're going to fight me on this?
Oh, absolutely. I am.
Okay, because all the tape that I saw, it's like you're able to sort of see that he's able to sort of mix up his speeds as far as, channeling the right way that he wants to set up his defenders. He's able to cut on sharp dimes as far as, like, getting in and out of breaks pretty well. But also just he has elite level speed. We talked about this in our Combine episodes, Tad, where it's just like Isaiah Bond was like, I'm going to break my teammate's record from last year, break the 4.2 or whatever that Xavier Worthy had, and he wasn't even close. Matthew Golden post a very respectable, I think, sub 4.3, if I remember correctly, at the combine there, right? So it's like he's a very good speed level, like home run threat as well, but he can also take it on the underneath routes because of his route running skills. Overall, though, I think the biggest thing that I think a lot of people have concerns with when it comes to the NFL, which maybe is why you have him at number 3 as opposed to number 2, is just with that size and with that frame. You said possibly comes in at 5'11". I have him at 6 foot. It's like whatever it is, just like a little bit, not a big bodied receiver. So it's like, can he deal with some of the more, physical defenders at the next level? If he takes a lot of hits, can he sort of live up to that sort of expectations? But I think what I see on tape, I think I can see him functioning as both an outside receiver as well as an inside receiver. Whereas when I'm watching Luther Burden, I don't see as much of the outside talent from the tape that I'm seeing. It's like they used him a lot more on screen plays. When he was catching the ball, I didn't see a lot of yak ability from him. So it's like I see him projecting more as a very good slot receiver at the next level. So that's why I think he may go at the tail end of the first round. Talk about Luther Burden here, whereas I think Matthew Golden has a good chance to go in that top 15. So that is the biggest thing as to why I have that separation between Golden and Burden. Is just that I really like Burden. There's no doubt that he deserves to be in the top 5. Like I said, you can sort of argue as far as who you want at 2 and who you want 3. But for me, when I watch Matthew Golden, I just see a lot more playmaking ability from him all across the field compared to Luther Burden, where it was just very limited at times. And so that's the biggest reasoning there.
I think that's a very fair criticism, or like kind of comparison, whatever word you want to use when comparing these two. And by the way, this is like the most first take segment we've ever done. I'm like, how dare you have him at number 2? He's
interrupted me, exactly.
But so with Golden, first off, my concerns are his size. I don't think he has the size to be a true number 1. And this is how it kind of
fair. Which is fair.
Before I come off as a Matthew Golden hater, because I do like him. Like I say, he's my number 3. Is to me, this is saying like I'm going to draft Tyler Lockett over DK Metcalf. It's not a terrible idea. It's just, I think most people would agree they'd rather have DK Metcalf, right? So I think that Luther Burden has more of that number 1, receiver potential. And I actually completely understand where you're coming from of like, I didn't see that potential from him. That's not his fault, though. It's because Missouri is coached by a bunch of idiots, and they did not utilize. I mean, you go back and look at the mock drafts a year ago at this time, everyone had Burden as the first receiver.
Yeah, as the first receiver off the board for sure.
It's because Missouri didn't utilize him correctly.
Yeah.
So I that's why I'm not saying you're wrong, because the tape does not show what Burden is capable of. So I actually understand where this, confusion is coming from. But in terms of size, in terms of ability, I think that Burden is absolutely capable, more capable, I should say, of being the number 1 overall receiver on a team than Golden. Because again, I think that Golden Lockett comparison is perfect, because Tyler Lockett was never the number 1 receiver on the Seahawks, but he was a difference maker on that offense. I think that's Golden's sweet spot. I think Burden can be like a CeeDee Lamb. I honestly think that's his ceiling. So that was my biggest hang up with that. And the other thing with Golden is, look, he missed a couple games over the last 2 years. He had foot surgery in 2023. Before that, he was dealing with some rib injuries. So again, with the size, that's a concern. It's like, how often can you really be on that? Are you going to Julio Jones me? Where it's like, oh, great, questionable. What's questionable? Like, am I?
Which you speak about Julio Jones, he has officially retired from the NFL today, so that is breaking news as well. Yeah, he is officially retired.
Ooh, first ballot Hall of Famer? I'm going to go no.
If he won that ring in 2016, I think possibly, but it's going to be a little bit more dicey.
Receivers tough.
Receivers are tough. Because Torrey Holt's still on the Hall of Fame, right?
Oh, don't even bring me up.
So it's like, if Torrey Holt's still on the Hall of Fame and you're not asking about Julio Jones, it's like I'd put Holt in first, right? So that's the thing.
Do you hear that too?
What's that?
It's Chauncey yelling in the background. Chauncey's the only one that's passionate about the Torrey Holt case as I am. But yes.
You mean former Jaguars great Torrey Holt?
Just retired. RIP. Him and Matt Ryan. Oh, get them on a broadcast team together. I watched that. So, no, I like Matthew Golden. I like Luther Burden. Let's talk about the route running. What the hell tape are you watching, dude?
I think for what I saw, like I said, it's just like you saw the good speed, you saw some of the breaks. I think he's able to create a lot of separation that maybe you just.
This dude looks like if he makes a cut, he's going to tear an Achilles. Like his post is the most curved thing I've ever seen.
I'm not saying it's super refined. There's definitely better route runners out there, but I think there's a lot that you could develop out there. So it's like that's why I sort of like the sort of separation he sort of presents out there. But like I said, overall, even if he doesn't create separation, I still like his catch radius. Like I said, he just finds a way to sort of get open and get the ball. So it's like, it doesn't matter how separated he can get. He finds a way to come away with those contested catches.
The catch radius thing made me laugh because I'm trying to remember who the receiver was. I can't for the life of me. But you remember the old sports sciences?
Yeah.
So there was a sports science on some receiver. I cannot remember. If you can, please comment below. But he had the catch radius of a garage door. Like you could, I think it was Megatron. I'm not positive, but I think
that seems like a safe bet. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's fair. Here's the biggest thing with this route running that's really, really concerned me is if you want, and this is why people always ask me, like, well, why don't, like, oh yeah, it's so hard. And when I tell them it's hard finding tape of players, they're like, just look up so-and-so highlights, right? And I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. And here's why. It's because highlights will never show this. But if you watch their game tape, the most concerning thing with Golden I saw is when he is covered well, he gives up. Like the laziest curl routes I've ever seen in my life. That is a major concern for me, especially, like you said, if you're drafting him top 15, that is a number one receiver. You best not be giving up on your routes if you're number one receiver. And he does. If he's covered well, he's just like, all right, I'm not giving up. It's like if I ran receiver. That's my attitude. I'm like, I'm not running 10 yards if I'm not getting the ball. But that's also why I'm not an NFL receiver. So that is a major concern of mine with this.
That is fair. I did see that on some of the tape where it's like, yeah, some more aggressive defenders. And like I said, that is a big concern of him going to the NFL level too, where it's just like, can he sort of consistently play on the outside, or will offensive coaching staff sort of slot him into their slot position to be more of that sort of versatile weapon with that speed on the inside? So it's like, that is the big concern with him too. But like I said, just based on the other skills that I see, I think he has more of the potential to play on the outside compared to Burden. But like I said, I like both of their talents. I think they're both very solid wide receivers, but just, for me, I think Golden gets that slight leg up for me.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, this is like first take, because at the end of the day, yes, he's good. He is good. Yes, and if he was, and he likely will be drafted in the first round where he deserves to go. But if you ask me, I think Burden is more deserving in the top 15.
Fair. I can see that. We'll see what happens there. All right, Tad. So who else did you want to push me on as far as my rankings are concerned?
All right, this is where I have a real issue.
Okay, let's hear this one.
What the hell is wrong with you? Cam Scatabo, whatever.
Yeah.
As your number 2 running back over Omarion Hampton? The fuck?
Yeah. I mean, it was tough, but it's like when I watched the tape on Scatabo, it's just like I see a lot of just, good playmaking talent from him. And I'm not saying that, once again, Omarion Hampton doesn't have those things. It's like he very much has those things. So does Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. So it's like I can see why pretty much everybody has these guys ranked right behind Ashton Jeanty. Some people are even saying Omarion Hampton's better than Ashton Jeanty, or it's like it's very much like a 1-1A situation between those two guys. So it's like they definitely have a high level of skills for sure. But just when I'm watching Cameron Scatabo, it's like we saw this happen. We talked about the Peach Bowl with Texas, right? We saw him sort of single-handedly take Arizona State and bring them back from the dead to almost come away with a victory in that game. I think he had like 246 scrimmage yards in that game and multiple touchdowns. So like this guy is just, he has it in him when the lights are the brightest. And that's kind of when you want these guys to sort of perform the best. But I think the biggest thing that I saw on his tape, my pro comp for him, Tad, you ready for this? Maurice Jones-Drew.
I actually don't hate that. That's actually
see, like Maurice Jones-Drew. Like, I mean, he's definitely a very solid running back.
I'm just gonna say Todd Gurley, but I mean they're similar, so I like it.
I think just what I watched, Maurice Jones-Drew's tape, MJD, that's probably a lot easier. Yeah, when I watched MJD's tape, it's just like I saw a lot of just like, they compare running backs to like bowling balls, where like they got that downhill mentality and they can sort of just bowl over defenders and things like that. So it's like I see a lot of that with Scatabo as well, where it's just like he just has this ability that it's just like nobody's going to bring this guy down. He has that sort of, finacity where it's just like,
there we go.
Brings defenders with him as he's going down the field. He's just very skilled as far as running the ball. He's got a great jump back move. So it's like in case he doesn't see the hole right away, he can sort of jump out of it, go different way across the offensive line there. Just bounces off defenders. Like I said, this guy's just very tough to bring down. Got that strong leg drive, those powerful thighs and things like that. We're just constantly churning out yards. This guy's going to be hard to bring down. Good vision. Like, I mean, this guy just can see the lanes that are opening up for him. He gets a lot of chunk yards that way. He's not a speed guy. There's a lot of guys at the very top of this running back class.
Trust me, we're going to touch on that, but yes.
There's a lot of guys at the top of this, running back draft class as far as the top running backs. None of them have this like home run speed. But the biggest thing that they do is they have that excellent vision, which sort of separates the fact that it's like, okay, when they see an open lane, they will hit it hard and they will be able to get you a large chunk play of like 20, 25, possibly 30 yards on the play, but they won't hit that, home run like, your Devon Achans or your Raheem Mosterts or anything like that. They're not going to be those types of players. So it's like, you give him an opening, he's going to score a 65-yard touchdown. These are not these types of guys, but they'll just continue to batter you down and wear down these defenses. These are guys that's like, you give them the ball in the first quarter, they're just going to be just as fresh in the fourth quarter. I see a lot of that with Scatterbo here. Like I said, we can sort of talk about that Peach Bowl game where it's like he brought them back and he carried that team on his shoulders to almost get them a victory in that game there. But just, yeah, he's got great power, good contact balance. So like I said, bounces off defenders, can still stay upright, get some good yards that way. But the big thing that I think I give him a leg up as far as all the other running backs in this draft class, as far as the top is concerned, one of the better pass catchers out of all these guys. So even compared to Amari Hampton, compared to Caleb Johnson, even compared to Ashton Jeanty, I like this guy's pass catching abilities as well. That's why I compared to Maurice Jones-Drew, because coming out of UCLA and when he was playing with Jacksonville, it's like they used him a lot. It's like that screen guy, and then he was able to use that power, use that little bit of speed that he had as well, agility, the quick jump backs, and that's how he's able to gain a lot of yards through the passing game as well. And with that, I think just he's going to be able to just find a lot of success. And I'm just so surprised that so many people have him ranked a lot lower. A lot of people have this guy as a day 2 running back, but I have him, as far as the talent that I see, he could definitely be a day 1 running back, even though he's not going to be. But just, yeah, I think I see the potential there. So it's just like after it's all said and done, when eventually he becomes a starter with somebody's team, people will be like, why'd this guy go so low? Because I just see a lot of talent with this guy. I'm so surprised that just people are ranking him that lowly.
All right, before I get into all that, do you want to guess what number MJD wore at UCLA?
At UCLA? Jeez. I'm going to go with the single-digit number. I'm going to say 3.
21.
21, okay. Because I know when he was with Jacksonville, he wore 32. I know that.
Yes, he wore 32 in the NFL. Oh, well, you know why you wore 32, right?
I don't.
It's because 32 NFL teams passed up on him.
Which
I love, actually. I love it.
Yeah.
Way off base on this, but I do love that because I hate when players are like, 31 teams passed up on me and they're drafted in like the 3rd round. I'm like, technically your own team passed up on you too. It's like, he's the only one I've ever seen actually acknowledge that fact.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, yes. Anyway,
very true.
Because I always forget he went to UCLA until you mentioned that. But all right, here's my thing with Scatterbo. I don't hate him as a player. Because I think like everything you said talent-wise is absolutely true. There are major concerns I have about him as a lead running back. So all my running backs in the top 10, I've seen potential of like, oh, dude, you could run my offense. You could be the primary ball carrier in my offense. That's how I did my top 10 running backs. Scatterbo has proven he's capable of that, almost to a fault. And he reminds me of guys like Toby Gerhart or I want to say like Chris McCaffrey, but like he's the exception to the rule. Where do you want to guess how many carries Scatterbo's had in the last 2 years?
The last 2 years, I'd probably say maybe in the 400 range.
Very close. Very close. 521.
That's fair.
That is a shit ton of carries. So I'm very, very concerned about that. And here was like the icing on the cake is I already knew that was a concern of mine going into his analysis. And then, this is the player I decided I was going to kind of get you on. And so I looked up, and I'm sure people listening to this are aware, if you go on NFL.com and look at these players' combine profiles, they get anonymous quotes at the bottom from execs and scouts that, sum up the player. His anonymous quote is from an AFC executive who I just feel it has to be the Steelers GM. and this is why, is because he's running back that plays like a linebacker. I love it. And I'm reading that quote like, I don't. Like, that is not what I want from my running back. Because, I think he has a solid NFL career ahead of him. I think that career is going to last about 4 years. But that's about it. And so there is my biggest concern for Scatterbo. So if I'm looking at how I'm ranking my running backs, it's nothing against him as a player. It's nothing against him as talent-wise, because, we are looking at a guy who went from Sacramento State to the 5th most Heisman votes this past season. He's good. I'm not going to say he's bad. But damn, that usage rate really, really has me worried. On top of that, you already pointed this out. He ran a 4.65 40. He's not a fast dude. So he's like a complimentary back at best. And I don't like, and for some reason, while I was scouting him, the name Toby Gerhart just kept popping up in my head.
That's fair. That's
just
fair.
like a really, really good college back who also finished as a Heisman finalist.
He did. He actually should have won the Heisman that year over Mark Ingram.
Well, was that Sue's year? Was that the same?
No,
year?
that was like I said, that was Ingram's year. That's the one he won it.
That's right. We've had this discussion before. But yes, no. Well, yeah, Sue should have won it that year. Gerhart should have won it that year. But bottom line being is like a great college back, but I just don't know if I can depend on him in the long run. And I'm not saying that's not worth a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, but anything before that, nah, I need you from like 5 years.
So you bring up a good point, but I also think that the way that NFL teams use their running game now specifically, it's not like the ways that they did it before. It's like there's very few teams like Baltimore where it's like they paid Derrick Henry all that money. You are our lead guy. Mostly everybody else, it's like you have a lead guy, but it's like you're also using a lot of change of pace back. So it's like I could see Scatterwell being the quote-unquote lead guy, but I think they'll just give him enough breathers with some other running backs in that backfield. So he'll still lead the team in carries, but yeah, he's not going to be the guy, like I said, Derrick Henry, where he has close to 250 carries per season or whatever it is. It's like he may not be that guy, but I still expect him to be the carry leader for whichever team he ends up being drafted to eventually. Because like I said, I just see that talent just, like I said, oozing from him on the tape that I see. We're just like, I'm just so surprised that he's going later. But yeah, I very much see whereas Ward to, we're just like this guy, just the usage rate. We saw that a lot with that was a lot big concerning factor with all those Alabama running backs with your Mark Ingrams and Derrick Henry and Trent Richardson and like all those guys. So
Zeke Elliott had his time in the NFL, but that fall off was quick.
Exactly. So yeah, I can very much see the concern there, but like I said, just the way that NFL teams operate with their running game now, I don't see it as huge a concern. So
fair enough. All right. So I've attacked you on 2 players. I will concede the rest of my time. Who's a player that you feel proud of where you ranked him?
I don't know if I feel proud with either of your rankings because, yeah, I'm pushing you on both of these. So let's stick with the running back.
I'm giving you a player to talk about in your own rankings.
Oh, you want to stick with that? You want me to finish that?
Yeah, let's get all 3 of yours out of the way, then we'll get to me.
Okay, I see.
I still need time to prepare for your criticism. That's what's happening.
Okay, that's fair. Oh gosh. So the player that I want to talk to you about is an offensive lineman and the reason that I say offensive lineman is because based on the rankings that will come out within the next, couple days here, week or so, is that Tad, you have him ranked as a tackle, but I have him ranked as a very high level guard. And that is the player out of Arizona, Jonah Savaiinaea.
Oh, is that how you say it?
I had to listen to it on the Arizona website with the audio or whatever of him actually saying it. So, yeah,
JS is what he is in all my notes. So
no, that's fair. Yeah, Jonah. You could probably just even call
him. Yeah, there we go.
But Savaiinaea, that's what I sort of heard there. But yeah, during his 3 years at Arizona, Tad, he split time between guard and tackle. So it's like he could sort of see that, he has that sort of flexibility. He started in 36 games in college. He played 15 at guard. And he played 21 at the tackle position, mainly on the right side of the ball. So mainly he's a right-hand side, the strong side position as far as the weak side. Or if you're Miami, then the weak side, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. So comes in at 6'4", 324 pounds. So it's like you look at this height of build. I think that's why a lot of people are pegging him to be more of a guard compared to a tackle. Now, I will say build does not always make up a player. Obviously, if they have the talent, they can play on the outside. But let's dive into a little bit of the tape as to why I think he's better suited to playing guard. But either way, I think he's very high-level talent in this year's draft class. Physical presence. I mean, this guy's just an absolute beast on the offensive line from what I saw. Just able to overpower opposing rushers at times. Built a strong base. So, I mean, this is a guy that's like he's able to anchor into the ground and people are not going to be able to push into him. So it's like essentially setting up that brick wall and people are not going to be able to get past that. So that's what I mean by anchoring the line there. So it does not allow defenders to sort of push him off his mark. He's able to set up, get his hands up, and really just move around to take on opposing defenders wherever they're coming from. Here's the reason why I don't see him as a tackle. He's not a very fast guy. He's got quickness. He's got quickness, so he's got quick foot speed and things like that. So he can sort of adjust what he needs to. But when you're on the outside, you sort of need to have a wider range as far as opposing defenders coming in from all angles across you, right? So you may get guys that are lining up a little bit more wider. You got the 3-4 alignment, so guys coming from this side. You may go 4-3. You may go like, what the Niners do. They go wide 9, so they got a little bit of wider front there. So it's just, I think you have to have that larger, wide range of motion to play the tackle position. So it's just, I just don't see that from him on the tape that I saw. Like I said, I see the good short area quickness. So it's like if you shift him on the inside, now you're worried more about the interior guys and maybe some oncoming defenders, but it's like you can see everything a lot easier And so that's why I see the short area quickness sort of benefiting him at the guard position as opposed to sort of being a detriment playing the tackle position. But the nice thing about that is that because he has experience on both sides, if he lands on a team and they have a lot of injury concerns, yes, he could probably do some spot starts for you at the tackle position, very similar to what we saw with Kansas City, where they had to put Joe Thuney at the tackle position. He was good, but clearly when it came to the Super Bowl, when it mattered the most, he was definitely a big factor for them as to why they didn't win, right?
Apparently trade-worthy.
Exactly.
Skipped
him out within, like, I think 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, right? If I remember correctly, something like that.
I don't think it was 2. I think it was the week after.
Might have been less than that. Yeah, I have no idea. But just like still, it's like, yeah, he could, but in a sort of like, emergency situation, he could play a tackle position. But I think he's better suited to play the guard position because that was the same thing with Thuney, where it's just like all pro at the guard position, but at the tackle position, it's like, maybe like Pro Bowl alternate instead of all pro, right? So I think I can see the same thing here with Sabat Inaya as well there. So natural run blocking skills. So I was like, you put this guy on your offensive line on day one. If you're in a team like Baltimore or something like that, they want to run the ball first. This guy will be like an instant starter for you. So the pass blocking, I think that he's about above average based on what I saw as far as picking up oncoming defenders, reader recognition skills as far as that. But I think that will develop with time. So honestly, Tad, the biggest thing that I saw with him is just like very much like a Will Hernandez coming out of UTEP a handful of years ago, right? Where it's just like he was a very natural prospect, a lot of raw talent. It just took a lot of refinement.
Will Hernandez went to UTEP? I completely
He did. He went to UTEP. Drafted by the Giants. Eventually didn't work out there. Now he's playing with the Arizona Cardinals. UTEP Miners.
Damn.
Yeah. You quizzed me on that one before, so it's like, now you just repeat it.
UTSA what?
Rotors, you quizzed me on that one before too. But yeah, so it's like, I think with him sort of finding success in the NFL, he needs to shift to the inside as opposed to playing the tackle position because, I think just with that short area speed, quickness, that's going to better suit him on the inside compared to the tackle position where he'll get exposed a little bit more. But overall, Tad, like I said, I have him ranked as my third best interior offensive lineman. I think you have him at like somewhere 8 or 9 as far as offensive tackle. But I think either way, most likely this guy is going to go on day 2, maybe possibly top of day 3 as far as like a round 4 projection. But I think whoever drafts him, I think they find themselves a really steal in this player because I think he's got a lot of potential to become a starter. If not in his rookie year, definitely by year 2.
UNT what?
UNT?
Yep.
North Texas are the Mean Green.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Damn it! Because I thought I was going to get you with the Falcon because they're one of those weird schools.
Yeah, it's a little bit, could be confused there with the weird bird logo, but yeah, they are the Mean Green.
Damn it. All right, whatever. Anyway, going to Jonah Eminem. I pretty much agree with you on everything. He is my 8th ranked tackle as of now. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you're not that positive on him, 8th ranked tackle. Well, here's why. He is certainly not suited to be a left tackle in the NFL. No. Never going to happen. Sorry, dude. But I actually see enough of him where I'm still convinced he could work out as a very, very good right tackle in the NFL. I know I am in the vast minority when it comes to that opinion, but I'm still a believer. But, going back to your point, he was like on the edge of being a first-round pick for a while there. And it's seeming like he's kind of where he belongs, frankly, in rounds 2 and 3. But really, that's the best spot for him. And I'm blanking on his name because it's also really hard to pronounce. I'll be shocked if you remember this. Who is that? Was it a Yale kid or some offensive lineman that the Chiefs drafted last year?
The Chiefs?
Yeah. It was like Kingsley or something like that.
Kingsley Suamatea.
Yeah. Like Chiefs drafted him, right?
Yeah.
So it reminds me a lot of that where we had a similar discussion with him where you thought it was like, oh no, this dude's a guard. I was like, I don't know. He could work a tackle. And now, as we just pointed out with Joe Thuney, Chiefs are about to find out. But the thing is, the Chiefs spent, if I'm not mistaken, I think a 3rd-round pick on him. It might have been a 2nd. I believe it was a 3rd-round pick. But Bob might be
first-round pick on Suamatea.
Wait, what was it?
I thought Suamatea, right? That's how they pronounce his last name?
You're asking me, of all people?
Just making sure. I will check that. You continue right now.
Anyway, but it reminds me a lot of that of like, if he's a day 2 pick, there's not much risk there. Like, okay, we're going to draft this guy to be a right tackle. Oh shit, we lost that Campbell. Well, now we have a solid starting guard. Like that's still a successful
second-round
pick.
Second-round pick, number 63 overall out of BYU.
63 might as well be a 3rd-round pick at that point. But point being is, it reminds me a lot of that pick of just like, it's a high versatility player with a low, at that point, again, 63 might as well be a third round pick, low profile pick. Yeah, no, I love that. I love the pick. I love the player. I love the placement. Colts, please draft him. Because apparently Minnesota just loves all our offensive line.
I know. They signed everybody from your offensive lines. Like, we'll just take all you guys.
Oh, you had to say the name, Will. Or you going to say Mr. Freeze next?
Yeah. Ice to see you.
What was that one line? Like, remember to go potty. It's like, wait, what? I remember even as a kid, I was like, that's what my mom tells her. Why is Mr. Freeze saying that?
I don't know. Yeah, it was a very weird movie. It was a very weird movie.
Sometimes you just need to shit out.
Exactly. Batman has a Batman credit card for some reason. It's like, yeah, I know.
The best part is when they're like stuck on it, they go, ready? Bump, bump. And then the ice skates just like shoot out of their shoes. It's like, really?
I don't know. It was a weird movie
like
for sure.
Dorothy, I want to go home. You just like tap 3 times. Bing!
All right, Dale, let's sort of push you on your rankings now because this is
off, but all right.
Let's start with the quarterback position because we haven't talked about quarterback as much here. So you're sort of, this is actually maybe more of a side of why, questioning my rankings more, but I still just want to ask you this question because you're not in the minority in this one, surprisingly, but I just still surprised as to why you decided to do this. Jaelen Milroe at number 5 in your top 10 rankings. I'm very confused by that.
Okay, well, first off, you are without a doubt the biggest Jalen Milroe hater I've seen this entire process.
Yeah,
which is surprising. Like, and we've been doing draft analysis for like 3 or 4 years.
3 years now. This is our third year.
Third year. I've never seen you dislike a prospect this much. It is shocking. Look, Jalen Milroe, and it's hilarious looking back on the mock drafts in January where it's like, it's like Jackson Dart and Milroe kind of like flip places. Yeah. Like all the places where Jackson Dart is not being mocked, that's where Milroe was in January.
It's true. It's very true.
And I think he's fallen off for good reason because, his accuracy needs a ton of work. He is way too skittish in the pocket. And again, with the first take that in, I understand this is the nature of this episode, but that I laugh because you're like, how dare you have this developmental quarterback at number 5?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, that's why he's at number 5. Because there is a lot to like there. I think that the athleticism is there. I think the just natural talent is there. I just think there's a lot of coaching that needs to take place before he truly gets there. So it's really depends on which team he goes to. If he goes, and I compare it a little bit to Spencer Rattler from last year's draft of it was funny actually, because going into the draft process last year, I hated Spencer Rattler because all I saw of it, I didn't watch him in South Carolina. I'm not an SEC fan. And so all I knew of him was, it's the Oklahoma kid that sucked and left. And then I watched him at South Carolina. I'm like, he's actually pretty solid. Then he got drafted by the Saints. I was like, yeah, now he's screwed. And lo and behold, very up and down rookie year. I think completely if Jalen Milroe gets drafted by, I don't know, let's say the Rams, all of a sudden I'm much higher on his future prospects. But if he gets drafted by, let's say, the Giants, and we're like, we'll sit him behind Russell Wilson for a year. Yeah, he's fucked. So that's why I have him at 5 is because there's just so much natural talent there. And another thing I want to throw on top of that is I think that coaching change from Saban to the Washington guy, who I refuse to learn his name until he wins a national title, but from him to the Washington guy, that's a big time change to go through. And they had a lot of transferring players, I know, because TCU got one of them. And you were talking about one of the most seismic shifts in college football probably since Paterno was fired. Are we still going with fired?
Yeah, let's safer say that.
Yeah, since that whole thing, since Al Pacino got fired. That whole thing, come on. That was good. Did anyone ever watch the HBO thing? It actually isn't bad. But, it was one of the most seismic shifts in college football. And I think, learning a new offense when you're trying to prove yourself as a first-round quarterback, that is a very tall order that very few can meet. So, yes, is Jalen Milroe a project? 100%. But I think he's a project that still has a chance at success.
So I have another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the difference then between Anthony Richardson and Jalen Milroe?
That Milroe has a better shot because he will have less expectations. I said the same thing about Richardson. Richardson would be a picture perfect mid-round quarterback. I go back and watch the live stream. That's exactly what I said about Richardson.
That's fair.
He just needs a couple years to sit, and that's why I was so pissed when the Colts drafted him that early, because I was like, oh, Ballard just trying to, and lo and behold, everything I said then was correct, is that Ballard just trying to save his ass by being like, we have a guy, and he throws out the guy, and the guy takes a knee on the sideline for 5 minutes because he needs a breather. Like, that is the difference. And that's why I'm a little higher on Milroe's. I'm almost happy. It's weird, but I'm almost happy that Milroe's stock has fallen, because the pressure on him will be so much less. That's my concern with Jackson Dart, actually, is I think Dart's going to bust. If you ask me, like, who's going to bust the hardest out of all these quarterbacks, I think Jackson Dart is Mac Jones 2.0. Of like, everything is there, but man, you were just forced into it way too early. And I think Milroe, because he's going to go a little later, unless prayers to you, buddy, don't go to the Browns. Unless it's the Browns, Milroe will have time to sit. So that's why I'm a little higher on him than Anthony Richardson. Also, you had to bring up Anthony Richardson. My blood pressure was good. I just went to the doctor. I've been calm all week. They gave me a compliment. Now you said Anthony Richardson, I can already feel just everything just pulsing.
I think the only reason that I sort of brought up the whole Anthony Richardson thing is just that, I was watching NFL Network today, and they're doing a discussion about Jaelen Milroe specifically. They had some sort of stat from PFF as far as like their athleticism score. They didn't go into what the athleticism score meant, but Jaelen Milroe was 99, which is the highest you could get. He was tied with Tyrod Taylor, who was 99 coming out of Virginia Tech. Okay. I think Malik Cunningham was like 97 out of Louisville a couple of years ago, whatever. And then Anthony Richardson was also 97 coming out of Florida. So it's just like, you look at all these quarterbacks, just like, they haven't found a lot of success in the NFL yet. Now, obviously, Malik Cunningham hasn't had a lot of time to start the NFL yet. Same thing with Tyrod Taylor. He's sort of been a journeyman quarterback. The jury's still out on Anthony Richardson, although some people sort of are labeling him a bust or whatever. So it's like, the athleticism is great, but just like, it's very hard to develop the throwing skills that you need as a quarterback. That is the biggest thing, because it's like, as an athlete, yes, this guy should be in the top 5, but as a pure like quarterback, that is where it's hard for me to label this guy as a top 5 quarterback, because I just don't see that. I see a lot of overthrown balls. I see a lot of shaky readings. I just see a lot of just things that you need as far as just basic skills as a quarterback. I just don't see that with Jalen Milroe. Yes, he's a very gifted athlete. He's got the rushing prowess. He could run an RPO offense to a T. Like, he's got that in the back of his hand, but just for some reason, put this ball in his hand to actually make a throw, he can't do that. Like, I mean, no, I just don't see it yet. And just like you said, it's like, I can understand he needs to land with the team to develop, but just like, I hear it so many times now where it's just like backup quarterbacks just don't get enough reps in practice to really just live up to like developing it. Just like, how much time do you have then to really develop and become a better quarterback? I just think that, your timetable is going to be too short once you get to the NFL. So it's like, that just worries me the most. So it's like, I can understand him developing behind somebody, but just like, how much time will he get to develop, and how much, will they take to develop him if they already have a proven starter ahead of him? So that just worries me the most about Jaelen Milroe. It's just like, the athleticism, like I said, through the roof, I see that there, but the quarterback skills that I need from a quarterback, I don't see that at all.
So two things on that. First off, you're not wrong. Like I said, I think you're more concerned about his development than I am, which is why you have him, if I'm not mistaken, number 9.
I had him at 10. No, I have him at 10.
Okay, you have him at 10. So
I almost wanted to take him off completely, but I was like, no, the athleticism alone will keep him on my top 10. But like, as a quarterback, it's like kind of the reasoning you were giving before, where it's like all the running backs on your list were like, these are guys that I envision as future first like leaders of a backfield. It's like, this is the same thing with my quarterback rankings, where it's like, these are guys that can eventually become starters. That's how I sort of have them ranked. So it's like, if he lands in the right system and everything sort of all the ducks line up in a row or whatever, then I can see Milroe as an offensive starter. But outside of that, it's like very, very slim chances in my opinion.
That's why I'm laughing, because for me, after the top 4 quarterbacks, who I think we both agreed on, I think our top 4, like the order was a little different, but I think we agreed on the same 4 guys.
Yeah.
After those 4, I'm like, yeah, none of these guys are starters.
I mean, overall, this quarterback draft class is not that strong. Like, I mean,
no, and that's my whole point. That's if you dropped him in, let's say, the Luck RG3 class, yeah, I'm right there with it. Milroe probably wouldn't even break my top 10. So I'm not that high on Milroe, but what was the second point I was going to bring out? I completely forgot what it was. So anyway, what was the second player we're going to hit me on?
That's fair. So, okay, let's jump back to running backs. We sort of spent a lot of time talking about running backs here. I was very surprised that you left this guy completely off your top 10.
Yeah, we need to talk about
very, very surprised by this.
Yeah, keep going.
Quinshon Judkins of Ohio State, who formerly of Ole Miss, where he was a bell cow for them before. And me and you, we talked about this on the episode, I think a year ago. We were just like, we're so surprised he transferred to Ohio State when he could have been a lead back at Ole Miss, but it's like sharing that backfield with Trevion Henderson. But yeah, I still like him as a top 10 running back. So I was just very surprised that you were like, nope, not even on my top 10. So like, yeah, defend yourself, sir.
All right. So look, I'm going to be completely honest with our listener viewers here. But first, I'm going to embarrass someone else.
Oh, God.
There's a great story where Chris Carter, years ago, I mean, almost like a decade ago at this point, made a top 10 receivers in today's NFL list. He left Calvin Johnson off that list.
Yeah, you shared this story before. Yeah.
And you could just tell he very clearly forgot that Calvin Johnson was still playing, but like he just started throwing out these ridiculous takes where it's just like, dude, what? Like, just admit you forgot.
You're grasping at straws here, buddy.
I'm not Chris Carter. I forgot Judkins was there.
Okay.
I will be, but with that said, to keep this segment alive,
okay,
he still would not break my top 5.
That's fine.
He would break
just
my
the
top
fact
10.
that he's on your top 10. That's what surprised me the most.
But like I would say like 8 to 10. Let me tell you why. Because this
8 to 10 is still something to discuss. Yeah, for sure.
So I did have a mini panic attack when you're like, oh, you did have him on there. I was like, oh shit, did I not? I was like, oh man, I have to find ways to defend this. And I'm not gonna lie, like, and this must be the way Stephen A. Max Kellerman still on First Take?
No, he's not on ESPN anymore at all.
What? Where is he?
Got fired, I think. Yeah.
Did he piss off Stephen A. too much?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. So anyway, Stephen A. and whoever the hell he's debating now, this must be how they feel when they're doing research. We're like, yes. So Judkins, well, first off, and this is not based off any research, any statistical data or anything, but watching him and the way Ohio State utilized him, I know people are going to throw the 1,400 yards rushing in my face. He wasn't their primary back. And I can already hear Ohio State fans be like, he was our primary. No, he wasn't. Henderson was. Exactly like what we predicted during the transfer news. It's just that the rest of the Ohio State offense was so good, the running backs could do whatever the hell they wanted. I think Judkins has a very promising career as a complimentary back, but I don't see him as a, this guy can be my number one back for a while. He's not a Tony Pollard. He's not a dual threat, like kind of physical running. He's not that guy. And
he's not a pass catcher at all. He is not a pass catcher at all.
But that's what Ohio State utilized him as, was a second, down back. Yep. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, here's the thing. This is what drives me nuts. Is his stats were just so good because he played for Ohio State. And their second down back tends to get like 1,000 yards because Ohio State's offensive line is a fucking cheat code. Now, this is the stat that really I was like, yes, this is what I was looking for. Do you want to guess in 5 Big Ten matchups how many yards he averaged last year?
How many yards he averaged?
Mm-hmm. Per carry.
Per carry, okay.
Per carry.
I want to say 3.2.
You're close. 3.4.
Okay.
So yes, you show. Here's the other thing that drives me nuts is it's recency bias, right? Well, he had 100 yards on 10 carries in the national championship. Sure. You go back. What were the only 2 games he had 100 yards against before that? One was against Western Michigan. The other was an FCS opponent that I already forgot its name. Other than that, he averaged less than 4 yards against every ranked opponent Ohio State faced before the playoffs. So that is a huge concern for me. Okay, yeah, you look great against the shitty guys, but then when you play guys up to your level, then you start looking pretty pedestrian. Major red flag to me. So, again, yes, I will completely fess up to just forgot he was there. That's why he was off my top 10. However, I will say this, and actually I gave in just as further proof, Jason Davis, good friend of the show. I told him because he's in a dynasty league. So he's looking at all these rookies of like, who do I draft for my fantasy football league? And I told him, don't touch him. Don't touch him until the 4th round of your draft. So I don't really care where he goes. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad NFL career, but complimentary running back at best in my eyes, which is like, if you ask me, go back, hold on. Let me look at my running back rankings real quick. So I had Wow, we have a lot of rankings. So my
more to come, folks. So yeah, we
my
got a lot.
8, 9, and 10 are RJ Harvey at UCF, Cameron Scatterbo, who we already talked about, Damian Martinez. Oh shit! You know what? I take back everything I said. He's on my top 10.
Interesting.
I like Donovan. Okay, so the what rankings will reveal. I got Jeanty, Hampton, Caleb Johnson, Ollie Gordon, Brashard Smith, Travion Henderson, Donovan Edwards. Why do I keep doing that? RJ Harvey, Cameron Scatterbo, and Damian Martinez. I like all of those guys more.
That is interesting. That is very interesting.
Market. Also, do you know libraries don't do the stamps anymore? I took my nephew to the library yesterday. They don't stamp the books anymore. It's very sad.
It's all digital, man.
I know, but that was so cool when they would stamp the cover.
Yeah, I know.
Also, like when you get on a plane and you see like the sealed ashtrays on the armrest, and you're like, oh my god, this is old. It's like some of the books on like the little envelope.
I remember when they actually opened. Yep, I remember that. So I do agree with you. Quinshon Judkins, I don't think will ever be a number 1 back in the NFL. He's definitely destined to be a complimentary back because purely, like I said, he just has no pass catching skills. That is not a skill that he has. Maybe he could develop it once he gets to the NFL, but those chances are very unlikely.
That's a pretty basic skill to develop.
I know. So it's like, yeah, I think he'll come, and I think he's sort of like one of those emergency situations where it's like he's the only guy wide open. They'll throw it to him and be able to break off a good run sort of thing. It's like that's what he's going to be suited for. But yeah, he's pretty much a 2-down running back in the NFL. So it's like he'll get those running downs. They'll bring in somebody else for those pass catching downs. But it's just like, yeah, I'm still surprised that you left him off your top 10. That's very surprising.
Look at my top 10. Honestly, I mean, he's like number 11 or 12. He's not that far off, but he's off.
Yeah, still surprising.
I see his ceiling as like a Miles Sanders type guy. Like, okay, you're good. You're not my dude, but yeah, I love to have you on my team.
All right, fair. All right, Ted. So who's one guy that you wanted to talk about across all your rankings as far as good, bad, somewhere in the middle?
I mean, this guy's getting a lot of love, and so I'm not going to spend too much time on him, but I just want to show some more love towards him because God,
you say Jack Besh, I'm going to shoot you.
Okay, so this other guy is also getting a lot of love. His brother died, man. Come on.
I know.
It's a feel-good story. Fuck you. Anyway. Please don't go to Raiders. I've been seeing that mocked a ton, and I really don't want that. Him and Brock Bowers is just not a good combo. But anyway, no, in all seriousness, so the guy that I really like is Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. And you know who reminds me a lot of? It's just like watching a small – there are a few things I love more in the draft process than watching a small school offensive line product just succeed at every level of the draft process and be like, you're going to be a monster. Because you know who the last person – I think we both said this about was?
You're talking about Quinn Miners?
I am talking about Quinn Miners. Do you remember where he went to school? I'll be so
– Whitewater.
Attaboy, nice. Yeah, so like he just reminds me so much of Quinn Miners where I'm just looking at him like, I don't give a shit where you play. Like, you're just going to be awesome. And the reason I say, that first part, I don't give a shit where you play, is because he also reminds me of a prospect that I think we both love. I definitely loved him last year in Graham Barton. Where it was like truly like you could put Graham Barton anywhere along the line. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that working. Now, again, with Graham Barton, I was like, now if you put him at tackle, I'm a little worried. If you put him at guard, I'm like, okay, you'll be solid. If you put him at center, you're golden. And lo and behold, Graham Barton had the Buccaneers starting center job by like week 5.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure your 49ers signed whoever he forced on the bench. But anyway, could be wrong there. Or someone signed him for like a ridiculous amount of money. I'm like, he got benched. It might have been the Jaguars. Anyway.
No, somebody else. Yeah, Niners have not spent any money this year.
But point being is, so like you have very versatile offensive lineman there he's going to slip. And we discussed this on last week's episode of he's got, and for those of you who don't know, Gray Zabel is a guard / center. Some people have been mocking him at tackle. I don't really see him at tackle. It could work, but it's a Joe Tooney situation. Like, you can play him at tackle if you really need to, but it probably won't end well. But I think that North Dakota State thing is going to cost him. I want him to go in the first round. I don't think he is. But he is absolutely, like, far no contest. He is my top interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, I very much like everything that I've seen for Gray Zabel as well. The only thing that I worry about is like, will we get a Quinn Minor situation or will we get a Trevor Penning situation? Because Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa, very much he excelled everywhere as well.
Pick, though?
He was a first round pick by New Orleans.
Well, okay. Well, there you go. That second part is New Orleans.
It's like, still, though, it's like he excelled it every step of the way as well. Then, unfortunately, just he hasn't met expectations at the NFL level. So it's like, yeah, that's a big thing where it's like I worry about with Gray Zabel. It's like coming out of North Dakota State. It's like, well, also, if you just want to stick with North Dakota State, I remember Dylan Radunes. Everybody was super high on this, good friend of the program, Stephen Haglund. He was a big fan of Dylan Radunes as well. And he's been okay, but he hasn't been like a very good prospect.
That I think a lot of people tackle,
yeah. So I think a lot of people expect him to be a lot better, and he's been sort of like above average. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, so that's just what I worry about with Gray Zabel. Just like when you come from these small schools, exactly like you said, automatically they sort of get pegged a few notches lower, unfortunately. But sometimes it comes with reason. Like I said, we've seen a few of these in the past. So it's like that's why I worry about them. But yeah. Everything that I've seen from him, I'm a huge fan of his as well. I think I have him number 1 in my rankings, I think if I remember correctly as well. So, yeah, I mean, we'll get to that.
You do not.
I don't. Okay, I think I had Tyler Booker still at number 1.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. This is a funny year for interior offensive linemen where there's not like any top talent.
Yeah.
That middle talent's pretty crowded. Like there's a lot of like
you can get some good guys later.
Yeah, spoiler alert for our viewers and listeners, but you have Tyler Booker as number 1. There's a reason I didn't fight you on that one because I was like, yeah, okay. Like I could, I see the interest there. Donovan Jackson's another guy I'm absolutely in love with. That's who I hope the Colts take in the second round, actually. So yeah, no, this interior offensive lineman, we're not going to talk about them much round 1, round 2 and 3. Oh, that's going to get interesting.
Which it usually is the case. I think, first round is usually geared more towards the tackles. I think you have every so often you have that sort of, surprising pick like Dallas Cowboys. They took Zach Martin a handful of years ago, right? Who announced his retirement this offseason. So it's like you get a few of those things every so often. Zach Martin obviously became an all-pro and a, Pro Bowl center. So it's like it worked out. So it's like, yeah, when you have that high level of talent, it makes sense. But it's like overall, yeah, interior offensive linemen, they usually slide to day 2 and day 3 for sure.
Zach Martin, Hall of Famer?
With offensive linemen, as long as they stay healthy and they had consistent all-pros, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think they have a good chance of making the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think that's like a Baselli situation. You just kind of have to
first ballot, maybe not, but I think Hall of Fame is definitely in the cards. I think so.
Travis Frederick
was the other guy that I think was he a first rounder?
No, I don't think so. Do you remember where he went to school?
Wisconsin, I think. Right?
Damn it!
Yeah.
God damn it! I hate that you've gotten good at this game. Travis Frederick, Hall of Famer.
I think same thing with Zach Martin. I think it's the same conversation, right?
I think Zach Martin makes it. I think Frederick falls short.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, is Jeff Saturday in there yet?
No, he is not.
That is a crime.
I think he was a finalist this past year, but then he got cut at some point eventuly, and then he didn't make any of the
The dude was like 5'11".
You know. I think people look at his coaching career, they're like, nah.
You pretend that does not exist, you son of a bitch.
Oh gosh. But guys, I think that'll end our episode here before we go on tangents about people who need to make the Hall of Fame and don't need to make the Hall of Fame.
Mark Bulger.
But yeah, guys, I mean, this is just one episode that we're doing with all the draft content that we have coming your way. We'll probably do a couple more GM episodes where you talked about it. We'll do a defensive rankings episodes once we start posting all of those rankings, or at least getting in the swing of things as far as getting all of those out as well. But I mean, guys, we said this at the top of the episode. Follow us on our social media handles. That is where you see the rankings. You'll see our top 10 quarterbacks. You'll see our top 10 running backs, the receivers, the tight ends, all the defensive positions, everything you will see. We're not going to discuss it as much on the episodes. That is what social media is for. So follow us on Twitter. You got me at UpTheSide23. You got Tad at TadSide94. Got the show handle at The Aside Guys. And of course on Instagram at The Aside Guys as well. So interact with us. What do you think about our rankings? Do you have people, do you disagree with Tad that Quinshon Judkins should be in the top 10? Do you disagree with me that Jalen Milroe should be in the top 5? Like, we want to hear from you. So interact with us on all those social media handles. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can drop a comment in there as well. We'll respond to you on our YouTube comments as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, so you're always up to date with our podcast episodes. And please, guys, during this whole draft process, LAFB Network has got you covered with all their draft coverage for the Rams and the Chargers. We only got a couple weeks until the NFL draft, so they're dropping you a lot of great, mock draft scenarios and prospect profiles and, scenarios where what they looking for as far as team needs. So it's like they got you covered on both levels there for the Rams and the Chargers at the pro level. And then with all the sort of spring game, I think Tad announced in our last episode, but USC is not doing a spring game, but I think UCLA is still doing theirs. But even with all that, we'll have the spring transfer portal open, so we may have some transfers coming in to both those schools. So we got you covered with your Bruins and Trojans coverage as on the college football level as well. But Ted, not just football anymore, because as the baseball season has begun, we got your Dodgers and Angels coverage for you. And with only a week or so left in the NBA regular season and with the whole NBA playoffs around the corner as well, we got your Clippers and Lakers coverage as well. So they got you covered on all three of the big sports franchises there, all the sports there. Lots of great content coming from a lot of great content producers. So guys, to everybody who's already watching our YouTube videos, who's subscribed to our podcast, who's interacting with us on social media, who's following us on social media, I mean, just anyway and every way that you're supporting the podcast, we really can't thank you enough.
Vernon Davis.
Not a Hall of Famer.
Whoa!
Yeah. No.
Wow. Justin Smith. That's tough.
Unfortunately, he doesn't have the stats. He doesn't have the stats. As far as level of play, yes. Stats, unfortunately, is not going to help him. That's a tough thing.
Ronnie Lott.
He's already in the Hall of Fame, you think is.
Anyway, so for your UCLA fans, I have good news, actually. I looked up while you were talking. Their spring game, April 27th.
There you go. Right after the draft.
I'm sorry. Spring showcase.
Is that really what it's called?
I swear that's what the headline said.
Oh, my Lord. What is the showcase thing that's creeping up in college football now? Was this the 70s or we're running a game show?
Showcase on April 27th for your UCLA Bruins. But if you are a USC fan going, fuck them Bruins, well, LAFB Network is still for you because you can check out the Salute to Troy podcast hosted by a unnamed individual. And he is very fine.
You named him earlier on the podcast. So I don't know why you're saying that.
Yeah, you did. Well, that's just, I don't trust him for particular reasons. But anyway, I do trust him running a very good USC podcast. And that is Al Rowe, former USC player, by the way. So as much as I disrespect him, he could kick my ass. So be sure to check out the Salute to Troy podcast if you want the latest on the USC news, especially with no spring practice going on. He's got the latest on how everyone's looking. And will Lincoln Riley survive this year? Because I have my doubts. And on top of that, you should also check out LA Confidential, hosted by a very good friend of the show, Chauncey Talese. We're hoping to have him on before the draft. We'll see if that schedule works out. But either way, he talks pop culture. He talks Rams. He talks football. He really just talks anything. So be sure to check that out. I will tell you this. Anytime it's like, you guys want to come on the show, there's no time I'm like, oh, God damn, I got to do this. Like, I'm always psyched to be on that show. So be sure to check him out. You guys can check it out wherever you find our podcast, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. So check all those platforms out for the best LAFB content. But most importantly, everyone, please keep listening, keep watching, and please stay safe, everyone.